Welcome everyone to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, the most fascinating man in the universe, DJR Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. It is Wednesday night, October the 1st, 2025. And if it is Wednesday night,
It's certainly Black Men Speak. So let's give a shout out to Count Basie for providing our theme music, to Forest Films in our own studio for subsidizing our virtual studio. And we're going to give Mr. Tommy Duncan, our news director, a big shout out for coming up with these amazing stories for us to discuss every week, which is not an easy task. But and so, with that being said, if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, help us with the algorithm, and invite a friend to come watch the show if you're watching live. Your
yes.
neighbor, co-worker, friend, enemy, family member, doesn't matter. Just so you guys have something interesting to talk about for the rest of the week. That being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring information about the nation globally and about the black community to social media.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started on this Wednesday. And we ask that you go ahead and join us on the chat line if you can, so that we can hear your thoughts about these stories and your opinions about what we say, because it is your show. We are just facilitating the process. We're going to go ahead and start out, with a few condolences this past week. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you know that one of the iconic civil rights and human rights leaders of the 20th century, Assata Shakur, has become an ancestor. The beautiful Assata Shakur, the iconic political activist in the fight for black liberation in the 1970s, who lived in exile in Cuba on political asylum for about 4 decades, has become an ancestor at the tender age of 78. She escaped from a New Jersey women's prison in 1979, where she was serving a life sentence following a murder conviction in a shootout that killed a New Jersey state trooper and a fellow activist. In addition to that, Shakur was born Joanne Deborah Byron in July 1947 in New York City, and was raised between the city of Wilmington, North Carolina, and New York City. She was a step aunt and godmother to the late rapper Tupac Shakur. She became involved in political activism while still in college, first with the Black Panther Party and then the Black Liberation Army. Shakur's legacy is complex. However, she was viewed by supporters as a symbol of black liberation, a hero of civil rights, and an inspiration for justice and resilience. She is honored for her activism within the Black Panther Party and Black Liberation Party, and her writings that spoke to her freedom, her refusal to be silenced, and her influence in future movements. She was celebrated in music. Her name featured in songs such as Rebel Without a Cause by Public Enemy, one of my old favorite musical groups back when I was in college, in addition to another song, a song for Assata that was produced by the rapper Common. For those of you who are readers out there like myself and Jimmy, there was actually an autobiography published by her several years ago. So for those of you who may be a little bit younger and may not know the history and the significance of Assata Shakur, this is the photo of her autobiography that was written by her, Assata. So I would highly recommend that you go out and read it to find out a little bit about this icon in the fight for liberation.
Yes, Tom. And just to add to that record, when she was convicted, she did not deny shooting, firing her weapon, but she said that the state trooper fired on them first, and that basically she was returning fire in self-defense. So obviously the jury didn't accept that story. Yeah, she was convicted and given a life sentence, and then eventually um, the her colleagues broke out of prison, and then she escaped to Cuba. So back then, Tom, were very rough days. There were people at the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army and others, the Freedom Underground, that were fighting for social justice. It's one of those dark chapters in our history, but I think we are a better nation for having gone through it, and for those people on both sides of the battle, uh, I think we are a better nation for it, because I think what we've learned utterly how vicious and pernicious racism and social justice denial to a large group of people can be. So not to say that our nation is perfect, but we're in a much better place now than we were back during the 60s and 70s, or even before that. So my hat off to all of the freedom fighters out there who helped us get to this point, regardless how we got there. Not saying that shooting at state troopers is a good thing, but like I said, it's I look at that whole period, and if we hadn't gone through it, we could have the things that were going on then could have easily continued even up till today. So I think we're smarter and wiser, and that we've learned a few things from that period.
I would agree with you, Jimmy. She is definitely an icon, someone to be exalted. I mean, you may have your opinions one side or the other, but
Right.
she was very clear in terms of what she was fighting for, and that was the liberation of African people, not just here in the United States, but globally as well. And I think that, ethnically, if she was a different, she probably would have been hailed as a hero, and probably the type of person that actually would be a very interesting movie to be made out of her life story. So
Okay.
I don't know that there are any other books that are more recently written by Assata Shakur, but definitely someone who I would highly recommend, especially the younger generation, to find more about if you don't know about this liberation
Yeah,
icon.
read the book. It's a good read.
Yeah, very. It's been a long time since I read it, but a very good book. So, we definitely in our prayers for the family, either those genetically and a part of her political family, for the loss of this great icon. Next, we will definitely share some very, very sad news. There's another young man. I don't know him that well personally, but for those who are in the North Texas area, you might know of him, Joshua Allen, who actually won the fourth episode of So You Think You Can Dance, has passed, become an ancestor at the age of 36. The professional,
Hmm.
yeah, the professional dance world and Hollywood are mourning the news of actor and dancer Joshua Allen, who has become an ancestor at too early an age. His
Oh
family
man,
confirmed to TMZ.
36 still had a lot of life in front of him, Tom.
Exactly. He was actually struck by a train and was taken to the local hospital where he succumbed due to his injuries. He hailed from Fort Worth, Texas, which is not too far from us. First rose to prominence in 2008 when he won season 4 of Fox's So You Think You Can Dance reality competition. He continued to make waves in the professional dance world in Hollywood, starring in the dance centric films like 2010 Step Up 3D and 2011's Footloose remake. So definitely want to give our condolences to his family, those who knew him, celebrated him, and loved him. 36 years old. I don't.
Now, do we know how he got in front of the train and get hit?
Yeah, the
Was he
details.
in a car that ran
Good
the?
question. This just happened yesterday, within the last day or so. So all of the
Okay,
details have not been released yet by the police department and or the autopsy. But it had to have obviously been a very tragic incident, and for him to get hit by a train, very very strange. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing how this could have happened.
okay.
But our condolences to his family and those who knew and enjoy his artistic brilliance and or expertise. Finally, for those who are in the basketball world, you may know this face, especially if you are a Syracuse fan per se. But this gentleman has become an ancestor at the age of 53. Lawrence Moulton, a former NBA player and Syracuse University basketball legend,
I don't remember him.
yeah, became a ancestor at his Washington D.C. home yesterday at the age of 53. The cause of death has not been released. He recently returned to his hometown to become a general manager for the boys and girls basketball teams at Digital Pioneers Academy. He was one of the best players in Syracuse University history and still holds the school's record for career points with 2,334 points, which has a lot to say because there are a lot of great players that came out of Syracuse. He became the first freshman to score 500 points in a season and was named Big East Rookie of the Year and third team All Big East. Moten was selected by the Vancouver Grizzlies in the second round of 1995 in the NBA draft. He also had stints with the Continental Basketball Association, the American Basketball Association Association and played in Spain and Venezuela. So definitely want to give our condolences to his personal family, the basketball family, and those who knew and loved him as well. We have a couple of good friends, Jimmy Wayne and some other folks who
I
went
was
to,
thinking about Wayne, yes,
yeah, so
Syracuse graduate.
they probably know this guy. You know, he's probably a little bit earlier than them, but I'm pretty sure that they knew his fame as one of the basketball greats in Syracuse history.
Okay.
So, with that being said, we want to, of course, memorialize and acknowledge all those within our community and families who have lost loved ones. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on. We have a couple of stories that we'd like to address. Jimmy, of course, everybody who's probably been awake over the last couple of days knows that there is a government shutdown going on, which is impacting some of our federal workers. Jimmy, of course, you know it's a lot of theater right now, but the federal government is officially shut down at midnight last night to preserve funding for federal agency. Thousands of federal workers across the nation, especially in Texas where we live, will head to work, possibly without the promise of a paycheck until both parties in
Well,
Congress.
for
Yeah,
essential workers, I mean, whether they get a paycheck or not, they still have to come to work.
correct.
For
Exactly.
non-essential workers, they are basically don't have to come to work since they're not being paid. But here's the thing, Tom, is that I think they call this the Schumer shutdown, and Schumer is the Senate minority leader, was a Democrat for the Democrats. And but here's the thing, Tom, is that when you do a government shutdown like this, the president and his Office of Budget and Management (OBM) has a great deal of power and authority. Uh, for non-essential workers, you start firing, give them 60-day notice, start firing people. Programs you can shut down, that basically they can squeeze out and do whatever they want budget-wise, uh, in order to reserve and keep the government going. It gives them a great deal of authority. It's never been used that way in the past when we had government shutdowns because they've always come together worked out a deal, a continuing resolution to keep the government funded, and they just kick the can down the road till December, till next year, to next year. I mean, we haven't had our 12 appropriation bills all passed to fund the government in a very long time. So Congress has not been doing their job, which is their primary job is to appropriate money, to spend our
How are
money.
you going to spend the money, basically?
They spend it, yeah. But since we're still doing continuing resolutions, it dates back to the Obama era. Um, we basically just keep adding to the Obama budget by $1 trillion, by several billion dollars, and rather than do what they're supposed to do, which is fund the 12 departments of government individually through a spending bill. So let's hope that, but they say they're close to getting it done. They just need another month to get it done. But here's the thing though, Tom, like unlike in the past, we're used to government shutdowns. They come to some agreement. All the workers come back. They get their back pay for the time that they were not working. That's not going to happen this time. You're going to see thousands upon thousands of people fired and let go. Non-essential workers
Yeah.
are going to be given 60-day notice. A lot of programs that were funded, that were Doge recommended cuts, are going to be cut in the interest of preserving the government and keeping it running for as long as possible. So for those who are trying to use the shutdown to blackmail Congress to get their way, yeah, all I can say is that I don't think Trump is going to budge one iota. So I don't think that strategy is going to work. He's okay with the government being shut down. Republicans have, said that they've tried to negotiate in good faith to get a clean continuing resolution to keep the government funded for at least another month. Um, the Democrats say they want a lot of things that were cut from the big beautiful bill. They want it restored, and so that's where all the sides are. But I think in the end, um, a lot of people are going to be adversely affected, and we'll see who blinks first in this game of chicken.
Yeah, I mean it is coming again. We of course we last time we had a shutdown was I think 2018, 2019. Interestingly enough, and the reality of it is, until Jimmy, in my opinion, and this never will happen until the folks who are actually making these decisions, the folks who in the halls of Congress are being directly affected by that. You know, we can say what it is, but when their healthcare is at risk, when their pay is at risk, it's a completely different thing. And so,
Yeah,
unfortunately, you have a lot of people well below the pay grade of people who are making decisions who are being affected by this, and the people who are making the decisions are never affected by this. And
right.
so, until that happens, they'll continue to play with people's minds. I mean, unfortunately, Jimmy, you know, whether it's right or not, you should be able to live without a paycheck for a couple of months. If you take the Jimmy Stewart and Tommy Duncan, financial literacy classes. But we know that almost half of Americans, can't go a month or so without a paycheck, and
Well,
or if they have a $400 or $500 unexpected expense, they're in bad shape. So I mean, it's a sad situation, Jimmy, and it's theater, at its highest level. And what you have to look out for, Jimmy, is what are they doing while everybody's looking over here and
well,
paying
they're now at home. I'm thinking they may be off for a break um, while this happens. So Congress people get a lot of time off. Time. But, I mean, some of it, they have to go back to their districts, have town hall meetings, but to most of them, it's just vacation, just time off. Nobody's holding them to come into the office when they go back home. So, but you're absolutely right. Congress finds a way to exempt themselves from all the laws that affect the rest of us. So, but you're right. If everyone had to go without a paycheck, I mean, top to bottom,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure
a different story.
donates his paycheck, so it wouldn't bother him whatsoever. But the rest of them, let them start missing that monthly check, and they may reconsider about these shutdowns. So,
And it's not that they didn't know that this was coming.
oh, they know, Tom.
I mean, it's not that they didn't see this coming. They knew this was coming. They've been talking about it. Everybody wants to point and blame, and I don't really excuse either party from pointing the fingers, because people's lives are going to be affected by this, but not theirs.
Well, I always blame whoever's the speaker. I mean, Johnson said that they did their 12 bills, and they sent them over to the Senate, and they just hadn't got up or down vote on them as being held up. But here's the thing: is that you have an entire year to work on 12 damn bills. Y'all should be doing this day and night to get this done. Year after year, you complain about these continuing resolutions, these omnibus bills that just balloon our deficit. Okay, so do your job, get the appropriators in the room, and start hashing this out every single. Don't work on anything else. Don't rename streets. Don't rename federal buildings. Um, don't do anything else till you get those 12 bills out of the way. So I hope after the holidays, because they get ready to go on from Thanksgiving to Christmas. That's another break. So after they come back in the new year, from the new year up until the summertime, you got 6 months to hash out all these appropriation bills. So just get it done. You're the speaker, get it done. You Schumer, you the minority leader, get it done. Stop us through this.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And we will, of course, see how many weeks. Um, I would be surprised, if we have multiple months, but we'll see how many weeks it takes for them to, you know, have more political theater and then make deals, in closed doors in order to make this happen, and of course continue to point the finger. Because Jimmy, when we grew up, there were differences of opinions politically and philosophically, but ultimately we grew up during a time, I guess, at least when we were younger, where both sides ended up figuring out how to go across the other side of the aisle, make some deals, and get it done. And there wasn't as much grandstanding now, Jimmy. Things have gotten a little bit out of control.
Right.
So, all
Well,
that being said,
being a person who's going through the financial struggles this year without a paycheck and having a judgment against me for $250,000, I can say that that judgment has now been settled. Um, so start rebuilding. It's a slow process, but like I said, no matter what your situation is, if you're willing to just dig in and work at it, you can dig your way out of it. But I will say this: don't be so dependent on government that no matter who's in power, who's in office, which parties is wielding the gavels, Don't be so intertwined with government that their actions affect you too adversely. So try to insulate yourself from that. And in order to do that, you need some wise investments, work hard. I don't care how much money you make, how little you make. You can always put a dollar aside. Tom, you can buy fractional stocks these days as low as 10, 20 cents. So everybody can scrape up a few dollars each week, each paycheck to put aside to invest in something. So
Agreed.
right,
Because one thing we do know,
time here.
one thing that we do know is that over time, even though there are going to always be blips in the market,
Oh yeah,
over time is going to go up.
yeah.
I
Over
mean,
time.
whether you want to invest in something more conservative like the Dow, you're a little bit more risky, and you want to look at the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, which is the broadest cross section of publicly held companies. If you just do a little bit at a time, it's going to go up over time, and
Over time, yes.
it will work for you because there should be a
There'll
component.
be some dips, and my strategy. I like to buy during the dips, but or the what you call them, retractions.
Right,
But yeah, make sure you're always putting a little bit aside to invest and save for a rainy day, especially if you're a young person, because those 40 years sneak up on you real quick. And before you know it, you're 60 plus and trying to retire, and you still at a Walmart greeting people.
right. So unless you just absolutely be wanting to because you need something to get out the house,
That's correct.
it's not something that you want to have to do because you don't have the option.
Well, far too many people have to do it, Tom. Like the studies come out that most of Americans are just a paycheck away from being on the sidewalk, and
True
couldn't
that.
come up with $1,000 for auto repair and save their life. So anyway, what's our next story, T?
Something a little bit closer to home, Jimmy, and I know you're very aware of this. Of course, with all the deportations that have been going on, of course, you have ICE facilities across the country. There was a shooting,
Yes.
unfortunately, in the ICE facility in Dallas, which is closer to where we are. And there is a second person who has died as a result of that, who is a Mexican immigrant.
Well, both of them were illegal immigrants, Tom. This guy wasn't a good shot, but
No, obviously not.
he shot through windows. He shot up the office. According to his note that he left behind, he was aiming. He was going to there to shoot ICE agents, but he ended up. I think three people were shot. Two.
Three people, two died. One was Mexican, one was Venezuelan.
Hmm.
So it's very, very sad because the young man who was the Mexican immigrant, had a child in tow, unfortunately, and now that child does not have a father. I'm sorry, the other one, the other immigrant who died, I'm sorry, was from El Salvador, not as Venezuela. The one who was from
Okay.
Venezuela is actually injured but not passed. But there's a GoFundMe set up for the young man from Mexico who was a provider for his wife. He was actually the sole breadwinner
Provider.
for his family.
Hmm.
And so
That
his wife,
hurts.
he said his wife was expecting a baby due delivery literally in
That
days.
really hurts. Now you're expecting a child and you're gone. And you're the sole provider.
Right, exactly. He actually was a painter. Last name was Garcia, Miguel Angel Garcia, who was a painter, painted houses and things of that nature. So just a very unfortunate story. I mean, behind the politics of it, there are real human beings, but the politicization is going to continue to move forward.
Oh, time's going to continue for this administration. Depends on who wins the next administration who heads it up. But I would say this time, if you're here in the country illegally, go ahead and take the offer and self-deport. I mean, they're offering you cash and air ticket home. Um, and then when you get home, just go to the American Embassy and apply for a work visa to come back. That may take you a few months to get approved, but if you don't have a criminal record in your country, or you haven't broken any laws here, um, there's a good chance that you'll be given permission to come back because we still need low-level workers. But if you get caught here illegally, it can be bad. You may not be able to come back at that point because now you have a criminal record. So my advice is, if you've been in for years, start taking the steps to get legal. Don't wait till ICE catch you and then it's a sad story. You just try to take care of your family and earn a living. Um, Go ahead and take the offer to self-deport, go home, apply for a work visa, come back legally. So that way you can work and take care of your family without the threat of you guys being deported.
Want to acknowledge a couple of folks on the chat line. We got Miss
Okay, who we
Tanya,
have?
Miss Tanya on the chat line. Want to thank her for joining us. One of our most loyal supporters. Of course, we got
Yes, she is.
cousin Audrey
Thank you,
is
Miss
on the chat
Tanya.
line as well. We've got to acknowledge our good friend and brother, Uncle Assata, K
Uncle Sar, okay.
well, who is of course always joining us as well. So I want to thank him for joining us as well. So there are a couple of things that we have,
But
Jimmy.
Tom, we need to get
I
Uncle
know you
Sar
want.
back on the show at some point to get us caught up on the um, the Pan African movement, man. See where we are with that. So
Okay,
we haven't gotten
okay,
an update from him in it's probably been about 4 or 5 months, 6 months. So
yeah,
since he's been last on the show. So yeah,
absolutely.
let's see if we can get Uncle Sar to come back and give us an update. Tell us what's going on.
Good deal. We have a couple of other things we definitely need to. I mean, I
Okay.
know you wanted to kind of go through some of the other items on the November ballot that's coming up. We talked about a few of them last week, and I know there were few more that you wanted to kind of go through on
Well,
that.
the most important thing, Tom, is for people to read the list over and to really get out and vote. Whether you agree with them or disagree, you can give your up and down vote, but don't do not vote and then be disappointed with the outcome because you didn't support something or you supported something that didn't pass. If you don't get out there and vote, then you have no right to complain. So let your voice be heard. Read over the ballot measures. Some of them you may agree with, some you're going to disagree with. How many is it? There's
We
quite a
got
few.
seven. Actually,
13?
there are 17, Jimmy.
17.
Yeah, we went through about five of them last week, and I'll go through a few of them that we did not go through. There is
Okay.
one that is Proposition 1, which would create an endowment for the Texas State Technical College
They're
program, which,
located in Waco, right?
yeah, it doesn't have any taxing authority. So this would actually fund a Texas State Technical College in Tarrant County.
I mean, they don't have any tax. How do they get funded? Just,
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure how they got funded originally,
hmm,
but this would help to fund the Technical College to provide for campus infrastructure, buildings, upgrade classroom, et cetera. So that's
okay.
can be an
I think that's
interest.
worthwhile voting for.
Yeah, we talked about the capital gains tax ban last week, so we'll kind of go past. But this one is another interesting one. Uh,
But go back for a second, Tom.
the second one is the capital gains tax.
Okay, so this ban on profits.
Yeah,
So in other
basically
words,
what this
talk
does
trying to
is
tax unrealized profit. So
realized or unrealized profits.
right. So if you had a portfolio that grew, let's say 25, 30% over the years, even though you haven't got that money, you haven't sold the stock, you're still sitting on it. There's someone wanting to tax that 25, 30% gain, even though it's not realized. And they could tax it, you could pay your taxes on it, and then they turn around and have a drop in and lose money. And there's no refund policy on the tax on unrealized. So this may be something, if you're an investor, big or small, that you want to pay attention to. So I'm
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
And they're talking not just stocks, we're talking about real estate also.
exactly.
You folks who sell your home.
All right, the next one is bail reform, which will require judges to deny bail on certain cases, including specific felonies, including murder, aggravated assault, and indecency with a child. The state would have to demonstrate that the bail is not enough to prevent the defendant from being a flight risk.
I'm okay with this one, Tom. I think some judges are far too liberal with the bails, especially when you go to a bail company and they put the money up and you're only looking at 10%. Um, which some people put their houses up, they don't even put the cash up. They put up property, they put up a car. But yeah, I don't have a problem with this one, especially um, for really heinous crimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do anything with a child, you shouldn't be allowed to get back out until you're found not guilty. Murder the same way. So it's in several other things. You steal a car, I can understand judge giving you bail. But if you assault someone, you pistol whipping people, you shooting at folks, yeah, you're too much of a danger. Yeah, that's the aggravated assault part. It just means that you assaulted someone with a weapon. Those
gotcha.
people should not get out of jail on bail.
All right, the next one has to do with water infrastructure, which this would clear $20 billion of tax revenue for water projects over the next 2 decades. About $1 billion of sales tax revenue would be deposited into the Texas Water Fund. basically to clean up aging infrastructure pipes, developing new water sources, et cetera, for residents in the state of Texas. Give the Texas Water Department board flexibility in the distribution of funds in order to conserve our water resources and infrastructure.
Tom, I don't think we've had a new lake built since maybe Ray Hubbard. Um, and so there are towns in Texas that are running out of water or have run out of water. And so this is something that's needed. Um, Personally, I like to see them put the infrastructure in so areas that are getting too much rain or threat of flooding, that you can pump some of that water to the dry areas out in West Texas to give them some relief. Um,
Yeah. My concern about this one, Jimmy, and it's not about this one, but when we had the big freeze a couple of years ago, and there was all this money that was supposed to be coming up that was supposed to improve our energy infrastructure because, of course, we had a lot of folks who were suffering when everything froze. And
I
Jimmy,
was
that
one
stuff.
of them, Tom.
And so we talk about allocating all of this money, and those infrastructure improvements still haven't been made for the.
Yeah, I was one of them, Tom, during that storm. It seemed like if it gets too cold, transformers go out, and we're the last one to get power back on, um, just in my little section of this subdivision. So
So you need to talk to your friends up in Austin because y'all been controlling the politics for quite a while, and they haven't fixed nothing
I
since.
complained, Tom, but they didn't listen. In fact, my brother works for an electric company, and as a lobbyist, man. So I had him to make some calls for us and to complain. Um, He claimed that we've gotten an upgrade in transformers, but I swear if it rains too hard or it gets too cold, we get snow or something, ours blow up. And like I said, we're not that high on the priority list to get it replaced. So
Jimmy,
yeah, right now I will sit in the car, go to the library every day to stay warm, and charge a laptop and do our work. So
I would recommend a constitutional amendment that would absolutely ban anybody representing the people to go on vacation to Mexico during a freezing storm where people are dying. Ted Cruz.
I think he just went to go. I think he went to the Caribbean, but I think he went to go pick up his daughter, man.
No, he was staying there until they found his ass, and then he was so embarrassed he had to come back. We know what happened.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
let's keep moving
Ted's
forward.
at the federal level. He don't have much to do at the state level, so
But
this
he
is
should,
more
he
of
should be get look
a
at the
Eric
end of the
state
day.
level
He
product.
may he may need to call in some favors to get some stuff done. So Ted Cruz, he need to have his butt at home. He's sitting up there in the damn sunshine. Everybody's freezing to death.
Don't hate on Ted, man. But I'll say this: for areas where the transformers are going out, and we got to go days and days without electricity, I think the local providers should provide us with a generator.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
All right, Proposition 5, tax exemption on animal feed, which would allow state lawmakers to extend tax exemptions on animal feed to include when animal feed is held as inventory to be sold. Animal feed is already typically tax exempt when it's harvested or purchased by a farmer or rancher. This would exempt animal feed inventory from property taxes that would lower local property tax revenue and require the state to help school districts make up for that loss.
Yeah,
Now,
I'm okay with this. I mean, the state does have billions of dollars in the rainy day fund, um, but I don't understand how there are some schools that need help when we have the Robin Hood plan, which moves money from rich districts, McKinney, Collin County, to poor districts, Wilma Hutchins. So it seemed like with the Robin Hood law that was passed, redistribution, everybody should have the same amount of money. I don't know how these schools are being hurt over a sales tax on feed.
good question on that one, Jimmy. At that level, when we look at the amount of money for animal feed, that sounds like an interesting, but I'm not a farmer, so I couldn't really speak to that. The next one, Proposition 6, securities tax ban, which prevents Texas from creating new taxes on securities transactions such as stocks and from taxing those who operate or work in the securities market, including financial institutions. And there's a possibility that there is going to be a new stock exchange in the state of Texas. So this would just prevent them from creating new taxes on
I'm
securities.
okay with this one, Tom, because getting a stock exchange in Texas will be a good thing for us.
I would agree. I have no
Bringing
problem with
jobs
that
and
being built.
revenue.
Being
We
an
don't want
investor
to
in stock,
scare.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, we don't want to scare the exchange people who are um, the market guarantees or the market makers from coming to Texas. And we need to steal some of this away from New York.
All right, Proposition 7, tax exemptions on veteran spouses. So this is something that a lot of people should be paying attention to, which would allow state lawmakers to give property tax breaks on homes to the unremarried spouses, not remarried spouses, but unremarried spouses to U.S. veterans who the federal government determined died in connection with their service.
I'm okay with this one, Tom. So that way you have an incentive to death do its part. When you come join me, and don't we don't get to heaven in this trio, me, you, and your new husband. So I'm okay with this one, man. Let's give a break to the spouses of veterans, like my spouse. If I died before her, um,
She
I would
can't
like,
get remarried, Jimmy.
huh?
She can't get
Yeah,
remarried
can't get married. That's right. Can't get remarried. That's right.
and get the tax break.
That way we get to heaven, there's no confusion. We back together again. And it's not me, you, and whoever your husband was after I died. So that's just too much confusion. It's
All
easy to
right.
work out.
Proposition number 8, inheritance tax ban. This is an interesting one. Though Texas does not currently have an inheritance tax, this measure aims to prevent lawmakers from trying to impose a tax on an estate or when an estate or inheritance is transferred. Would not eliminate other existing taxes, but you cannot create any new ones.
Tom, the death tax in some states is as much as 50%. Um, when the death tax in New York expired, um, and it just so happened that Steinbrenner died right under the window. If he had died another month or two later after the law expired, his family would have had to sell the Yankees and a bunch of other properties because the Yankees were worth billions of dollars. They didn't have the 50% death tax on the value of the Yankees, so they would have to sell it just so they could pay the tax on it. So I'm glad to see Texas is pretty much going to protect property owners and folks who want to leave their children some inheritance and pass it down. So yeah, you shouldn't have to be forced to sell off property just to pay the goddamn death tax because your state wants money.
All right, Proposition 9, inventory and equipment tax. This is something you probably have an opinion on, Jimmy. Exempt up to $125,000 of business inventory or equipment from being taxed by school districts, cities, counties, or other taxing entity. Under current law, the businesses don't have to pay taxes on that property if it's worth $2,500 or less. This is a big upgrade.
Tom, it is a huge upgrade. Like I said, the first time I went in business many years ago, I had an office downtown. I went out and bought a lot of furniture and equipment, and the appraisal district came through and took inventory of everything I had. We put a dollar value on it. The next thing I know, I'm getting a damn bill from them, I'm getting a bill from the water district. Um, and it's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. What's going on here? So basically, my accountant broke it down for me. Is that yeah, the assets of a business are taxed. So from that point forward, I understood that the best thing you do as a small business or any business is to rent your equipment or lease it. It's not worth buying stuff and having to carry it on your books unless you can depreciate it the tax away. But yeah, this is a big improvement from 2,500 to 125,000. I think it should personally be higher.
Gotcha. All right. Proposition 10, tax exemption for homes destroyed by fire. Temporary lowers property taxes on homes destroyed by fire. Homeowners could apply for an adjusted tax bill on a restored home. To qualify, the homeowner's home would have to be remain uninhabitable for at least 30 days after the fire.
Okay, I can agree with this, Tom. But if your home has been destroyed by a fire, first of all, you can't live in it if it's been burned down, and your property shouldn't be worth very much at that point.
Yeah,
You,
but the
you, you
mafia,
should
but the mafia wants their money, Jimmy.
you shouldn't have to pay any goddamn tax until you rebuild and restore the damn property back to whatever it was before it burned down. But yeah, if a house burns down, it's just a slab and a lot there, then that should be tax exempt until somebody rebuild on it. You want to give people incentive to take that insurance check if they have insurance and rebuild the house. Don't they shake the check and go away and leave it there? So
Well, hey, the Barfield won't stay cut, man. So this this will at least help lower until you get your house back up and running, Jimmy.
hmm.
All right, next one, Proposition 11, elderly and disabled allows the state to raise homestead exemption, a discount on school property tax. We talked a little bit about this last week, but just this was in general. But for the elderly, they would get an additional $60,000 blip on the additional taxable value of their homes rather than the 10,000 under the current exemption. Otherwise, there was another proposition that we talked about last week that would, if chosen, exempt up to 140,000. And with this one, the elderly and disabled would get ultimately up to $200,000 worth of exemption on their home from property taxes.
I'm okay with this one since I'm an elderly person now. I've joined that little club. So yes, give us all the breaks possible.
So that's the big one. And folks, these are ones that you have a direct economic impact
Yeah.
on your household. This is why we're going through this. This is Black Men Speak. I don't know how many other folks are going to do this, but this is going through you one by one as to how
And
you can
Tom,
impact.
and if you're not elderly now, you will be one day. So
Absolutely.
you may want to vote your with this one.
Exactly. Proposition 12, state judicial conduct changes the makeup of the Texas State Commission on Judicial Conduct and related processes and powers. Basically, it adds two citizens that would be a part of this review board, and it takes them out of the attorneys that are originally chosen by the state and puts two additional citizens on here. So it moves that from 5 to 7, in addition to the 6 judges who are on this judicial review board.
Tom, I think this needs to be expanded even further. One or two judges is fine, but the majority should be just regular citizens because these judges and lawyers are far too friendly with each other.
Yes.
They all know each other, and as long as you are writing that check to judges' campaigns, which they need money also, you're writing a large enough check, they're not going to find any misconduct in what you're doing. You've got to spread the money around. Um, so take away the judges. One or two is fine, but they should be a citizen board.
All right, this is the school tax exemption that we talked about last week that would basically give you a 40% increase on exemption on your taxable value on this home. We talked about this one last week, so it would increase it from exempting from 100,000 up to 140,000. And of course, if passed, for senior citizens and the disabled, up to 200,000.
Now, if it don't, and you're stuck under the old taxing system, um, don't blame anyone if you don't vote. So once
Exactly.
again, vote your pocketbook, vote your interest.
All right, Proposition 14, funding for dementia research. This would allocate $3 billion to create a dementia prevention and research institute to study dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and other brain-related conditions.
Now, this one I'll actually be voting against, Tom, believe it or not,
Okay, share your thoughts.
because dementia and Alzheimer's and these type and Parkinson, sometimes referred to as type 3 diabetes. There's far too many studies out there that show that if you keep your A1C down under the 5.6, stay away from the sugars and the carbs, that there's, in fact, the one study that I saw, it was out of China, but it wasn't funded by big pharmaceuticals or the food company, saying that there's not one case, not one, now one, as they say, down in my old street of
And where is this at, Jimmy?
this was in Cell magazine, a study published by the Chinese, that there's not one reported case in the medical database of a person
In
with
China. In China.
China. The research was done by China.
And so what? And
It
what you're saying
wasn't
is that you have
funded.
to get rid of
Most of
carbs.
these studies are funded by either the food companies or pharmaceuticals. So you got to be careful about who's paying the bills and what the results are. And since this was not funded by any pharmaceutical or food company, I could somewhat trust them, even though it's communist China. Um, for as dementia and Alzheimer's, one, high cholesterol levels, not one reported case of a person with high cholesterol in any of these brain diseases. And the other part of it was for people who don't have diabetes, who have a low sugar diet to keep their A1C under five, 5.5. Not once again, not one reported case of dementia, Alzheimer, or Parkinson in the world globally.
So get rid of the sugar and do what else?
Yeah, just get rid of sugar. Keep your carbs to 100 grams or 50 grams, but basically keep your A1C under the 5.6.
And explain what A1C is for those
That's a 3 month average of your sugar level.
okay.
So if you go to the doctor and they say you're pre-diabetic, it basically just means that you're over the 5.6, but you haven't quite reached the 10 where you become diabetic. You're somewhere in the middle. But don't allow yourself, even with pre-diabetic diabetes, to be in that category, especially when you get older. You get my age, when you get over 60, you definitely, and I didn't realize this before, you have to watch your sugar as you get older. Even if you don't suffer from ill effects of diabetes, just still having a high A1C as you get older could lead to dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So you want to
And
keep your brain nice and healthy, keep the plaque out of it, stay away from the sugars.
and the reality of it is, unfortunately, it's very simple science, Jimmy. It's
Yeah.
just like when you eat fatty foods and you get plaque in your arteries, which leads to heart disease. The same thing
No,
leads.
not the fatty foods, Tom. The fatty foods will help you keep you from overeating. And plus, fats and proteins are the essentials where your body turns those into amino acids and pretty much can generate all the nutrients that you need from fat and protein. It's the sugar, the carbohydrates, the starches. It's
So
all
what you're suggesting, Jimmy, is you can go out there and eat all the fatty foods you want.
yes until you fall. It's not going to bother you, not going to hurt you, won't raise your blood sugar
How do
levels.
you define fatty foods?
Like a ribeye steak is good fat with margarine
So
on
you're
it.
talking about proteins, flesh
Yeah,
protein. You're talking about
a good cut of
protein.
meat with fat in it. Actually, lunch meat and hot dogs have lots of fat in it, and organ parts, which are a good source of fat also. So it doesn't have to necessarily be expensive cuts of steak, but a good
So
brisket
fat,
from the
fat
round
means, Jimmy,
section.
fat to our community means cakes, cookies, and pies.
Stay away from yes anything made with
That is
flour or
fat.
wheat
That is
and
fatty
sugar.
foods, Jimmy.
Huh?
Cakes, cookies, and pies are fatty foods.
In fact, here's what you do. You go to the meat section, you buy all the meat you want. You go to the vegetable section, you get all the leafy vegetables you want, uh, and with a few fruit, but not too many of them because that fructose will affect your liver and you develop fatty liver. Stay away from everything else on the shelf and everything else that's in a can because most likely it's going to be bad for you. When you're young, your body can deal with it, but as you get older, your body starts to break down and can deal with it a lot less. So, and I
All
know
right.
firsthand. So,
All right, let's go to
all
let's
right,
go
what
to
else we
what we
got?
talked about last week, codifying parental rights, which of course we were very clear about making parents the primary decision makers for their children, and we talked about this briefly last week and just codifying that in the state constitution. That is 15, and then with 16, we talked about this one last week as well. Validates and codifies who is legally eligible to vote. Persons who are not citizens, legally U.S. citizens, cannot vote in local elections. And then on, let me see here, Proposition 17, our very last one, property tax exemption for border security infrastructure, basically stating allowing the state to prevent property value in border counties from increasing due to border infrastructure and related improvements to the area.
Well, I can say this time as an American, I can't affect the outcome of any election around the world globally. So, because I'm not a citizen of that country, unless I change my citizenship and it's approved. But otherwise, as a visitor and a guest, I wouldn't be allowed to go to any other country, developed third world country, and vote. So I don't think if you're not an American citizen, you should be able to come here and vote. Um, so that's just how I feel. The other thing, I would amend that law about the parental responsibility to include that you have the right to whoop your children, get the leather belt out if you have to. If you're going to be responsible for them, you need to be able to discipline and make sure to keep them on the right track.
Well, then you got some work to do in calling your governor and your state legislators because all of that has been taken out of the schools in the state of Texas,
You need
Jimmy.
to put into the
Supposedly,
Constitution that you have a
supposedly a
constitutional right
conservative state,
to whoop
but
your kids.
But school teachers, they get in trouble. They cannot put their hands on these kids, and that's in the state of
Well, you
Texas.
know what? If that's the case, then if the teacher calls you and say your child is acting up, I had a friend in the sixth grade. His name was Wallace, um, and Miss Watkins was the only elementary teacher I ever remember because she paddled. But she called his mother. His mother came up there, made him pull down his pants, and paddled him. And Miss Wilkins paddled him also in front of the class. So we need to go back to those days, time of putting the paddle in the drawer or keeping it on the desk, especially these kids who are young, so they understand that if you act up, don't do your homework, talk it out. If I got to talk to you and you disrupted my class, there's going to be a heavy price to pay. If we don't want the teachers whooping our kids, then you need to be able to drop everything you're doing and come take care of it before that school bell rings and let them out.
Gotcha. All right, those are our 17 constitutional
Vote your interest,
in the
people.
state of Texas. In the state of Texas, now you need to, of course, check out, if you have anything on the ballot, including any local offices that may be up for grabs in your specific area of the state and in your municipality. But Black Men Speak has gone through all 17, so you can't say you didn't know what was on the ballot, and you have to go out there and vote. Because at the end of the day, it is these local and state elections that impact us the most,
That is true.
even though we get, you know, basically hung up on all of the federal elections. One thing that I will have to say that I completely forgot about last week, we can talk about it very briefly. And I had it on the agenda and quite frankly just missed it last week. So I want to apologize with
Okay.
all the hoopla that happened with Jimmy Kimmel getting pulled his show for about a week. And then, of course, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. And of course, he ended up, his show ended up getting restored last week. We meant to talk about that briefly last week. So let's talk about that briefly and then we can get to sports. And I think that'll do it.
Well, I think we need to clear up the misconception that somehow Trump was responsible for pulling the show off the air. He wasn't. The reason the show was pulled because a lot of the affiliates decided they were not going to air it, and so Disney
And why did
pulled
they
the,
decide they were not going to air it?
they were not going to air it on their local affiliates. So the show was pulled, but there was some backlash. People, come out of the woodwork fighting for the show, even though the ratings are terrible. But they're hoping for some kind of reboot. We'll see what happens. But I think ultimately, in the end, a lot of those late night television talk shows are not what they used to be doing the Johnny Carson days.
I would
They used-
agree with that, but
yeah.
but the FCC basically threatened this guy,
No, they didn't, Tom.
Jimmy. Come on. So
Tom,
what
they
you
didn't.
so
You can't find one memo, one email, one note.
oh you can't okay folks, don't believe me, look on social media.
Okay, Tom, you may as well go out to Wikipedia and believe what's out there.
I'm not saying Wikipedia, but when the
Tom, you know
official
what? Anybody can post something on social media.
but if it's on the official if it's on the official department site, yeah. And I guess it's just coincidental that somebody got pissed off because he made some statements about, of course, the unfortunate murder and assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it was very coincidental that 47 made some comments, and then the FCC responded and made some comments, and then they pulled his
Okay.
show.
Go read the comments from the CEO of Disney, who owns ABC, and see what he had to say. Once again, the official explanation that Disney put out was that they canceled the show or put it on the back burner for a while because
For we
too many affiliates around the country decided they were not going to air the show. So that's what Disney said, who owns ABC. So nothing, they didn't say nothing about the FCC threatening them to take their license away. In fact, that
oh
wouldn't.
so what you're saying, Jimmy, that never happened.
I'm
It
saying
was, it
that
was a figment of
even if
everybody's
somebody at
imagination.
the FCC wanted to
That
do it,
someone said that said that it was a figment of everybody's imagination. That someone said that they were actually going to pull their licenses, if they didn't
Tom,
pull.
even if the FCC tried to pull the license for ABC, it would
No,
not
no, no,
happen. The
no.
courts would not allow that to
I'm not saying
happen.
the FCC. I'm talking about somebody higher than the FCC saying that they were going to pull somebody's
Oh,
license.
and you talking about Trump? Trump can't pull their license.
He,
The
but
FCC is an independent board.
he makes threats.
Okay, he can make all the threats he wants, Tom. He threatened to pull money from um, Harvard University, and they stopped the funding. And guess what? The courts put the money
Because they
back.
got to sue him.
Okay, but my point is that the president is not the king and authoritarian that all the lefties continue to try to make him out to be. That he's Hitler, he's a Nazi. Hitler had complete control of his country. Donald Trump does not have complete control of his country.
No, he
So
doesn't.
even if he threatened to pull the lights, he said it about a lot of shows and networks. And guess what? Nobody's license have ever been pulled. Not from radio, not from television,
You
hell,
make
not
a point,
even
but
YouTube, talk radio.
it
When
was
they tried to stop
it
us
was it
plenty of
was
time, Garth and his gang, and get our shows pulled, but we're right back on it. YouTube's restored our shows. My point is that the free speech is still part of our
I
constitutional
would
right.
agree with that. And I
And
think
so Donald Trump just cannot, I don't care how much he dislikes the show, your comments, or how much Garth and his gang dislike our show and do everything possible to get us pulled. They can't just take us off permanently.
exactly.
So we
Exactly.
have remedies to get back on, which we did. We exercised our rights. But ABC with deep pockets, oh no, they Trump couldn't do it even if he wanted to.
Yeah, got you. So
Okay,
we
that's
did.
why you have me here to clear things up, Tom.
All right, good. Of course. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Now, we've got to take these next 5 minutes, 4 minutes to talk about the game. The Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Jimmy, I know that you saw that game just like I saw this game, and it was it to say it was interesting, Jimmy. A 40-40 tie. Of course, it was the return of Michael's first return to Cowboys Jerry Land, and of course the Cowboys
You know
and
what, Tom? Michael wasn't even the impact. He got the one sack
yeah.
only because of the statisticians gave it to him.
What do you
I
mean
mean,
you gave it to him? Oh,
Dak
sack.
Dak was
Okay, okay,
running
I
the
thought you said
ball. When a quarterback gets to the line of scrimmage, he's officially a runner at that point. If you tackle him at the line of scrimmage or beyond, that's just a tackle. But they gave him a sack on a quarterback run. The other thing is um, the guy Elam, I think is his name, because we got from the Jets. The Jets let him go because he does not do very well in zone coverage, covering people. And it's obvious because the Cowboys, 80% of the time in their coverage, secondary, is zone. Why would you bring a guy who's not very good with zone coverage to, when you know you're going to be playing mostly zone instead of man to man? I'm so tired of damn Cowboys cornerback and safety running 4 or 5 yards behind a damn receiver trying to catch up. First of all, you don't let him get past you. If you got to grab him and hold him, take the goddamn flag. You know, it's a 15-yard penalty and first down for a hold. But if you let him catch the ball on his way to the end zone, that's 7 damn points. Take the lesser of two evils. But hell, we got to use those draft picks we got for Micah and draft us some cornerbacks and safeties in the first 2 rounds of
what y'all
next year's
need to
draft.
what the Cowboys need to do is draft some first round coaches because the reality of it is they should have already fired Matt Eberflus, who was the fired coach from Chicago Bears to control their defense, and they are
It's almost like they're not even being
they are the
coached.
absolute last in total defense in
I know.
NFL, which is absolutely shameful for a team that said that it was for a owner who says, "I want to win the Super
He
Bowl."
does want to win. Tom, he does.
No, he
Look,
doesn't, Jimmy.
he does want to win.
He does not want to win.
But
He does
having
not want to
Elam,
win so much that he would not get out of the way.
Diggs, and Bland in that backfield, they're just not. And then our other safety is hurt. They're just not getting the job done. Far too many big plays being given up. And when teams are fourth down and desperate, they just go long, go to the end zone. I'm just going to throw it up. Most likely, you're not going to be covered anyway. Another big play. So yeah, if the defense could have gotten any one of those stops in the fourth quarter, I mean, it's a shame
The
that
Cowboys have no defense.
the Green Bay didn't even have to call their punter on the second
And
half.
Green Bay should be ashamed of themselves. Their Green Bay did not. Their defense didn't show up at all. You know, they came out, they whacked the Detroit Lions, who are
Oh,
looking
no, no,
pretty
Tom.
doggone good right now.
The Cowboys do have a decent offense, but
They
we know
no, no, I
that.
said defense. I said the Cowboys are trash on defense, not
We're
offense.
trash on defense,
They're trash on
I
defense,
thought
and
you
the
were
Cowboys
trashing
don't play
Green Bay's
defense.
defense also. But the Cowboys' offense is fairly decent. We're
Yeah,
middle of
the
the pack.
Cowboys offensive defense, and I'm gonna tell you what. You know, you can say what you want. Pickens and Tolbert made some
Oh,
hell of a
Pickens,
catches.
Pickens came through. He showed up.
He did, and if it was not for him and Tolbert, who made an All-Pro catch on the sideline that Dak just threw up in the air, they surely would have lost that
Oh
game.
yeah, and he came. He was in the end zone, but yeah, he had to come back for the ball because it was short. Yeah, it was a nice play in the end to get his toes down. So that pretty much saved it. So
Just like
that play
Matthew,
right there, Tom. He's running the ball. He's a runner, and this $188 million overpaid player makes a shoestring
that
tackle.
is a Jimmy. You're correct, but that is a 4 point difference in the game because
Yes, it was.
that would have been a
Oh
touchdown.
yeah, I mean he
That
definitely
would have been
saved
a touchdown with
Green Bay from
anybody else.
losing. So I give him that. But he only recorded one sack, no pressures, no solo tackles for 188 million, and that's the
I would
result.
agree, but Jimmy, if you're double teaming him every play he is in the game and nobody else to get to him, that's a shame on the rest of the Green Bay Packers defense because every time he was on the field, he was being double teamed and being chipped by a third player every time he was. So I'm not surprised, but that should be opening up for somebody else to get to the quarterback.
So the other great pass rushers in the league today don't go through the same thing.
Who?
The other great pass rushers in the league, they don't go through the same thing.
What I will say is this. They have two men completely dedicated to stocking Micah Parsons, which
And on
is
top of that, Tom, I saw a number of plays. It was 1-on-1, and he didn't get the job done.
I didn't see.
Okay, so now you're going to
There were
force
not
me
very many
to
where he
go
was not being
pirate
double teamed.
the game.
There were not very many where he was not getting double teamed.
Okay, there wasn't many, but there were some where he was 1-on-1, especially on the right side. Um, but yeah, that's what $188 million gets you. So the Cowboys got the better of that deal with a decent player and a defensive tackle and 2 draft picks.
And they still can't stop the run.
Yeah, we're okay.
They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass.
No, Tom, it wasn't a run that was killing us. It wasn't. It was a big. It was damn big plays. We can't. We give up too many big plays, and our secondary
Okay,
can't stop
Jimmy.
anybody.
If you're
Same thing
stopping the
against
run,
Philadelphia.
if I'm not a defensive coach, but if you're stopping the run, all you got to do is play a cover two, and you should not get
Tom, we
touched.
played cover two. And receivers still ran by our corners, our safeties, even in the double two in a cover two scheme. Like I said, you look up, you got Diggs, you got Bland, and you got
Which at
Elam
one point in time,
5 yards
Jimmy,
behind the damn receiver.
I mean, Diggs and Bland were at one point in time, and I know Diggs himself was all pro.
Oh, they were great a couple of years ago.
For them to get
Bland was
that
great
bad,
last year.
for them to be that bad, just from a couple of years ago, Jimmy,
Yeah, Bland was great last year
yes, he was.
Diggs was hurt. Diggs was great a couple of years ago. They got the big contract. Um, in fact, Bland got a $96 million 4-year extension. But that's the thing, and that's why I say sometimes it's best not to extend these contracts. Go ahead and let them walk while they have some trade value. Because a lot of times some of these guys get the big contract, and they're doing everything they can, especially when it's guaranteed money, not to get hurt. So they can get all the money out, suck all the money out of the contract.
You know, Jalen Hurts got his bag, and he seemed to be still doing pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
Josh Allen got his bag. He seemed to be still doing pretty good.
Well, because those guys eyeing up a second big contract in 4 years, 3 years when they're
But
fit to play.
Josh just got his bag, and he playing better.
Yeah.
What is it about the Cowboys?
But Josh don't take that many hits, and Hurd doesn't take that many hits.
Exactly.
So, but for
And
the guys who take the hits
got their
or have to
contract.
do the hitting, it's a different story.
Gotcha. All right, folks. Well, who did the Cowboys play this week, by the way?
We play the Jets, man.
Okay, well, that should be a win. That should
We
be
need
a
to give him back their cornerback. Tell
we
Elam
don't.
to go ahead
Yeah.
and change jerseys and give him back to the Jets, man, because he's not doing us any good.
All right, but we'll definitely see what happens, folks. So that is our show for today. We want to thank you for joining us this evening. Of course, share this information, like this today's podcast if you enjoyed, and share this information with your friends so they can be the smartest person in the room that they are in. We want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you
Yeah,
next
because it's
week.
lonely when I'm the only smart person in the room, so I need company.
All right. Y'all have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Because if it's Wednesday night,
These black men speak.
good night.